Okay, I had a bit of a technical glitch. I am back now. So next thing we're going to do is we've got our atmosphere. Is we'll add another layer, and we're going to add some rings. So we'll hold the Shift key down on our key tool here on the upper right, and we'll do the outer rings first. I'm just placing it in here so I can see it, the coloring. So in terms of the coloring, if you look here and you've got your color picker, you can pick. And some people ask, what's the two colors here in this circle? Well, say this original color here is red that we already have in there. We use the color picker. There's our original color on the bottom. There's the color that you're picking on the top, right? So say I picked that color on the top. There it is on the window. Then I'm like, I don't really like that. So you go back in. There's that color on the bottom we just picked, and there's our new colors on the top. Okay. So I think that's a pretty good color for the rings. So then we'll go down to, we're on a different layer, remember. This is our atmosphere layer. We're on a blank layer above that. Stroke. Also, I want to mention I added, I made the image bigger. It's now 9,000 wide. It's 300 dpi if you're in the inches. The reason for that is because when you do thin lines like rings, and they're at certain angles perspective, or they're just certain angles along the screen, you get what's called aliasing, which is something that happens with pixelation. If you have a low resolution image, you're going to get high aliasing. So it's best just to have a decent size image to avoid that stepping. You'll get a stepping. So I think we'll have avoided it here. So we're going to go to edit, stroke. Let's try 16 pixels. That's pretty good. Duplicate that layer, hit return, go to transform, scale. We'll do, let's try 98. 98, that's good. Click both these, top one, next one below with the Shift key held down. Merge layers. Check that it's on its own layer. Duplicate the layer for the next rings. Transform scale. Let's do 94. 94. Oh dear. Let's try again. 94. 94. Duplicate it one more time and scale it one more time. Let's do 96. 96. Okay. So now we have first outer rings, middle rings, inner rings. We've got these chosen, merge, checking, and now we will transform them to in perspective. I use distort for a lot of this stuff, for skew and scale, and it works out pretty good. Do something like this. Pull out these outer handles. This will put them in perspective. It's more than a matter of just compressing the disk. Pulling these out puts them in perspective, because the center line will be pushed farther to the other side of here, as opposed to being dead center, which is what a lot of ellipse guides do, and you want to avoid that to get a true perspective. So here are our rings. We don't want them too massive. It's pretty good. So come back down to transform and rotate. Rotating, give it a nice decent rotation. Okay. I'm going to duplicate them. I'm going to put them down here, just in case. Go to your eraser and just do the hard eraser. These rings that are on the other side of the planet need to go, so get rid of them. You see what, as you zoom in here, it gets a little not as textured as you'd like it. I mean, it's a little pixelated, but because we're far away, it's okay. You know, matte painters, they'll spend, you spend week, if not weeks, working on these, depending on how close you are to the planet. A lot of the stuff that they do is modeled on 3D spheres, and then you add to that. But for this, this is just a concept piece. This is fine. So now we've got to cast our shadow onto our sphere, onto our rings. So I'm just kind of eyeballing this. I'm using the polygonal marquee tool. Hit delete. And what we'll do here is soften it up a bit. Bring this down to about 30, 29, 30. Just so it's not so rich. Let's see what we can do here a little bit. Now what I'll do here is I'll duplicate the rings, duplicate, and then I'm just going to go to brightness and the contrast and punch up the brightness, right? And then on the one I just punched up, I'm going to get rid of these. I'm just going to, it's like a highlight on the rings here, right? To keep that. So it gets, there's a little bit of a gradation there, alright? So click those two, merge those, and there's our planet. Let's see how we do here. So here it is, and of course it doesn't look, doesn't look great right now, but we'll get it in there. It's a procedure, you've got to be patient, you can't panic. Let's shrink it down, see what 80 gives us. 80. So what I'm going to do here is, again, I'm going to hit the command key, and I'm going to just hit another layer and back a bit. Fiddling all the time, fiddling. So I'm going to take these, duplicate these layers, take the one, take this and just move this down under here. And then these layers here I'm going to merge. And then I'm going to just have a look at a few things here. Then what I'm going to do is adjust the color a bit. Bring it up a bit. Okay, so that's a start here. Next thing I want to do is start working on this atmosphere here, so I'll choose a color down here. I'll work on this level here and punch up some contrast. So here I'm hitting the Gradation Tool right here, and up here you've got these 4 different types of gradations. If you hit that one, it'll give you that kind of gradation. This one, it's from a central point. The one I want is the 1 second from the right. So I get my cursor, I'll pull down from the center point here. It'll give me some atmosphere there like that. I want that to be above the planet. And then I'll just scale it up a bit. Scale it down a bit. Oops. And I'll set this one to soft light. It gives a little bit, there is a difference. I'll duplicate that. Make it normal. Transform the scale. And just kind of give it some control here in terms of what I'm trying to get at. Okay. So then I merge those two layers of, hold on a second, merge this down. What's going on here? Oh, okay, I don't want to merge it. What I'm going to do here is, see this right here? I'm going to start erasing some of that because it's in the foreground. I'll bring this down up to about 30, 40, and I'll start erasing some of this. And this will give it depth. You know, you start getting into atmosphere, it automatically gives you a lot of depth. especially if you look at cities with foggy days or pollution, you'll get that. Let's fiddle around with this a bit more. Okay. A lot of it's going to change in a minute because I'm going to mess around the whole lot. Next thing I want to do is, well, let's duplicate this layer. I'm going to get rid of these rings. And then I'm going to scale this down. $20. I'll get this guy down here. Duplicate him again. Little guy. You can go nuts with planets and moons. Alright, let's see this. Bring this down to 45. 35. Let's do 40. Let's see what happens here if you double this one up. You know, sometimes you can merge this. You know, the planet in the foreground is, you know, just to make it stronger than the planet in the background. This one back here, maybe bring this back a bit. Yeah. So, now we've got that. Just want to get in here a bit more with this. So we're getting there. Next thing we need to do is I'm going to duplicate this layer, and then I'm going to take the Lasso Tool. I'm going to go through here like this. I'm doing this fast. You want to be gentle and accurate when you do it. And I'm getting rid of, I just got rid of that top layer of the duplicated layer. I got rid of the sky. The reason I'm doing this is so that I can add some more depth to it, because the values across here are pretty similar. I just want to punch it up a bit. So I'm going to go to levels. I'm just going to kind of bring them down a bit. Bring it down a bit more. Okay, and then we can go back in with our eraser and just kind of gently erase some of this away so that there's not such a hard line. And the next thing you can do is go to burn and burn in some darkness here. Just give it just a little bit more depth. You know, someone asked me once, is it, you know, with depth, is it always good to have dark in the foreground and light in the background? Does it always have to be like that? No, it doesn't always have to be like that, but it's a pretty quick read in terms of depth. It's a good way of showing depth. So let's just have a look at this. Bring this back just a little bit. So now we have this. Now, sorry, I don't want to cough in the mic. I'm going to have to cough. Excuse me. So now I'm going to get rid of. I'm going to flatten. I'm going to flatten the lot. I mean, one other thing you could do. Well, let's flatten this first. Let's duplicate the lot. Get rid of that. Let's duplicate all of this. Duplicate and then merge. Turn all this other lot off. See all this stack of layers here? I'm going to do now is I'm going to just take that, click on the top, hold the shift key down, click on the bottom, go to layer, group layers. Now I've got my group. I'm just going to call it master. So, you know, if I had these turned on, you can just turn the whole lot off instead of clicking through. So what I'm going to do here is take this, duplicate that again, keeping that master layer there, and I'm going to well, first, before I do any coloring, I'm going to go into my brush. I'm going to try something here. It might be a disaster. Let's try this brush cloud. There's always room for disasters. It's always good to have a good cloud brush. Let's try this one. So what we'll do is, I'm just going to try something here. It takes it away from the look of the gradation, you know. Let's try a different cloud brush here. It's not great, but you can just hit soft light there. You know, it depends on what you're trying to get, where you're trying to go with it. But you know, when you use a brush with a texture, you're getting to more natural elements, you know, and you're not you're not dealing with something that's so synthetic as just airbrushing it, you know, which can be a problem because it just has such a linear quality to it, you know. So if you program your brush a little bit more randomly, it's gonna benefit you in the long run. You just take a little bit of time to do that. Alright, so let's merge that. I mean, I would spend a lot more time, you know, actually modeling the clouds more, but you get the idea here, you know. I'm going to mess around with the color here now. Adjustments, color balance. Just taking it into an otherworldly space. You kind of mess around with it. Where can it go? Hot, cold. And we could do one more little gradation here. I'm going to take this, darken this up a bit, and just do a linear gradation. Oh, what happened there? How strange. Oh, there we go. Another thing you can do is like, you know, you can choose this hill right here and go to transform warp, and you can manipulate it, you know, do things with it. The best way actually of doing it is you want to choose it, then go to edit, copy, and then back to edit, and then paste in place, because you want it to, you don't want it just, sometimes if you just paste it, it's going to offset it. You just paste in place, and now you see it's there, and then you can manipulate the duplicated part. I don't know, whatever you want to do. And you may want to, you know, punch up the darkness on it a little. Maybe even cast a shadow a bit more. But you know, all of these are options. I'm just kind of getting you started off here, and you can run with it. Okay, so I did a few adjustments here. I stopped the recording and did some adjustments, and I'm showing you what I did. This is where we left off. An issue with the color of this is going into that turquoise. I messed around with that. I desaturated it about 45%, just the planets. Then I just did an overall recolorization to push it more planetary. It's another realm. So as you see here, so I pushed it there. So I'm going to do now, I've still got my gradation. What I'm going to do now is, actually what I'll do is I'll merge down, get rid of that, duplicate the layer. So I've got two layers here of the same thing. I'm going to run it right through a filter. I want to get a little bit of artsiness in there quickly without having to hand paint everything. So on the upper layer I'm going to go to filter gallery, and I'm going to go to paint daubs, and I'm going to go to, let's say 33%. As you can see, it's got painterly. I'm going to push this up here. The brush size, I'm going to push it up to 20. I'm going to push this sharpness up to 40. And here on the lower left, because it's a large image, it's going to take a little bit of time. You just got to wait for this blue to fill up there, left to right. So it's quite a painterly look here now. This little window right here has, see the eye? You turn the eye off, that's where we were. You turn the eye on, and again it has to fill up again, but you see, and then you can pull back, let's see, 25%, 12%, and it just gets to be more painterly, which is nice. Everything doesn't have to be photoreal, but I saw an issue here with regards to the planet, the rings. So there's a few things, that's why I've got it on two layers. I'm going to erase the upper layer of this painterly look, revealing the cleaner rings. Just some areas need to stay the way they were. Let's go to 33%, and let's bring this down a little bit to about 32 in the sharpness. Let's see where that takes us. And if we go higher on the brush size, you know, say double this, 40. It'll start really removing information, and it doesn't look painterly anymore. As you see, it's just blurry, muddy. So for something of this size, which is, I think it's 6K across, 6,000 across, or 4,000 across, you want to stay around 20 or below. Or let's try 15. Let's move back up to 20. I like 20. Again, you're constantly adjusting, learning, testing new things. So I'm going to hit OK on this. I'm going to run a little filter through there again, see what that looks like if we do unsharp mask. I guess very painterly. So in terms of this, the rings, you see you lost information. I mean, they just made the rings thicker, which I don't particularly want. So I also lost a little information here. So you can see you can try different things. Different techniques. I mean, you can take this and you can erase this top layer here, and in various percentages. It's at 100 right now, maybe 40. You take certain areas out and customize certain things depending on how you want it to look, where you want detail to be, and all that stuff. So here is our planet. I hope that you enjoyed that tutorial. Always experiment, always try things, always have a story behind your designs. Your stories will always help you if you're in a fix for ideas. Just think of a story. We could have anything here. If I continued on this, I could either have a spacecraft taking off, landing, dust kicking up. I could have a couple of creatures grazing in the foreground here. There's always things you can add, and give it some kind of depth story-wise, so that it's just not just an image, a pretty image for being pretty. So I hope that this has helped you get started to do some amazing planetary landscapes. And thank you for watching, and I'll talk to you next time.